Okay, the recipe is really simple. It's just cabbage and salt, and I will use whey that I've saved from my Greek yogurt. It gets the process of fermenting starting a little faster. Slice it up real thin with a knife, and then I've got a big roaster that I smash it down in, and then I will be using these Fido jars, which are airtight jars, which will keep me from having to weight it down. Okay, with a sharp knife, I just cut this off. This has grown a lot. I don't think I can lift it with one hand. Put that in the dishpan. Okay, I'm going to make 2 separate batches of sauerkraut, one with the red cabbage or purple cabbage, and then when I'm done with that, then I will go with the regular green cabbage. I'll see if this dangerous knife works. I have to cut these pretty thin. If this doesn't work, I'll use my longer knife that I'm used to. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is slice it up in thin slivers. You could use a food processor for this too. I don't like cleaning my food processor unless I have to, so I'm going to try with a knife. Look how beautiful this looks like on the inside. Now I'm not going to use the core part there. I will use mostly the parts here. This knife cut this in beautiful ribbons. I think I'm going to go through once just this way so the strands aren't quite so long, and then I'll do the other half here. The purple cabbage is all sliced up. I've got a tablespoon of canning salt over the top here, and now I have to smash it up for about 5 minutes with. Okay, the cabbage has been stomped down. The volume is a lot less than it was. Now there's only 2 more things to do. I'm going to fill my Fido jar. They are from Italy. I bought them off of Amazon. They're great. The airlock makes making sauerkraut so much easier. I've only had one batch go bad out of all the batches I've made. To have to make sure that this jar is completely, spotlessly clean. Okay, and then I'm going to stuff those in the jar to within about this far from the top. One year I filled it too full and it just oozed out the top. So not too full, maybe to about here. I have some whey left over from the yogurt, the Greek yogurt that I drained yesterday. I will put a tablespoon of that on top of the jar, and then I'm going to set it room temperature for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll put it in the refrigerator after that, and it will keep for a year or 2. I am a terrible judge of capacity, so I emptied out that jar, which was not full enough, and I'm going to put it into the smaller Fido jar. That large head of purple cabbage was not even enough to fill the smaller jar. Remember, I need to have it come up to probably about here. I'm lacking this much. So I went out and cut off one of the smaller ones and fill it up with that, and then I'll start on the green cabbage. Okay, this time I used my hands to smash this all up. It was a lot faster and a lot better than this potato masher, so we'll save the potato masher for potatoes. And now it's ready to go in the jar. I'll pack in as much as I can, not getting it too full. Remember, when it gets too full, it'll ooze out the top. I push this down with my fist, and you'll see there's kind of foams there. It is completely covered in liquid, in the cabbage juice. And now I'll pour the tablespoon of whey over the top. Okay. I will wipe off this rim, and then I'll hook this together. Snap it like this, put it in a dark place, maybe just cover it with a towel somewhere in the living room. I think I'll put a pan underneath it because it has leaked before. And then we'll check back maybe once a week, maybe not until 3 or 4 weeks, so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. After that, I'll put it in the refrigerator. I have a purple mess to clean up before I get started on the green cabbage. Even my fingers are purple. You can't tell too much. Anthocyanins. Same thing that's good for you, same thing that makes blueberries and blackberries so good for you. Maybe I should have done the green cabbage first, and then the purple wouldn't have mattered. Too late for that now. I had some extra pieces that weren't real fine, closer to the core, and what I'm going to do with them is saute them with some onion, some bacon fat. To keep it this pretty color, I'll have to use a little bit of acid, so a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar in there, and I'll saute that and have that for supper maybe. Now, you don't have to add any acid when you're making the fermented sauerkraut because it will make its own acid. Okay, that's what fermentation does, and it will be a beautiful purple color when it's finished. All cleaned up and we're ready to roll again. I have 2 big heads of cabbage, and if that's not enough to fill this, I have more cabbage outside that I can cut off. I'm thinking this is the only sauerkraut I'm going to make this year, so one smaller jar of the red cabbage and one larger jar of the green cabbage. I still have, I think, a jar or two left from a couple of years ago. So from the rest of the cabbage, probably just end up cooking it or making coleslaw out of it. Well, I'm definitely going to need to go pick some more cabbage. Maybe I actually picked these too soon. Look at that. That's why it was so light. This is really the only part I can use for the slaw. This is all core in here. Now, this is very fluffy cabbage. Thanks to my brother Rick, who gave me this really sharp steel knife. It's doing a great job making fine little ribbons of this. Still have another head to go after this. This is one of those big heads of cabbage that I squeezed together with my hands in this pan. Put it with a tablespoon of the canning and pickling salt. Now, I haven't squished it down yet. Let's see how compressed it is once I've smashed it down with my fist. Remember, it was up to here? I pressed down the cabbage with my fist, compressed it, and yeah, there's not really liquid on top of there yet. Oh, and before I forget, I want to encourage you, if you have a garden, cabbage is pretty easy to grow. You buy the cabbage plants, any nursery has cabbage plants. And making sauerkraut, as long as you have the right equipment, and by the right equipment, just something big enough to smash it in, and then get these Fido jars to make it really easy. Like I said, you can buy them from Amazon, these airlock jars, and then it's just a matter of having a place to store them. Sauerkraut, make your own probiotics. It's a great deal. Okay, if you'll notice, the second head of a flat Dutch or flathead Dutch cabbage, something like that, is much more dense. See that? Much more dense. It's heavier. This is why I had such a hard time cutting it off of its stalk, and even cut myself doing it. Of course, I used the wrong side of the knife to start with. But anyway, this is heavier. This is more dense. I might get more out of it than I did the first head. And I'm finished. Took a little bit of time. It would have been faster if I'd have used a food processor. This is a pretty light green color, but this will turn that sort of whitish, creamy color that the sauerkraut is that you buy in the store. If you're buying sauerkraut in the store, you notice most of it will have vinegar in it. That is not fermented sauerkraut. So this is the real stuff. This is the stuff that has probiotics in it. We're going to put it away for about 4 weeks. Like I said, that will be when school starts for all of you, August the 12th. And at that time, you can see what it looks like, and I'll put it in the refrigerator to store it.